Good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to have all of you. There are many people who have registered. Thank you for registering, and many more are going to join in as time progresses. I think it is a matter which is very, very close to every Bangalorean's heart. Over the last 10 years, I think I can visibly see a lot of change in the middle class. The middle class, which used to show a lot of apathy, I think, to voting. I think there has been a big change. Bangalore, the very fact that we have Bangalore Apartment Federation now, so many people participating and actively trying to push the voter percentages up. It is indeed surprising, in spite of all the citizen efforts that we have, that the numbers are actually coming down. It's a pleasure to welcome Dr. Sandeep Shastri, Vikram Rai, Kaveri Kedarnath, Sudheendra. So we will, and Mr. Selvamani, when he comes, joins from BBMP. It is puzzling and it is worthwhile to try and understand why all the efforts that we have taken have still resulted in poor turnout. Is it a numerator-denominator problem? Or people are not coming out to vote? Is it that the number of electors going up is faster than the number of voters going up? There could be multiple issues. People are there. We hear about ghost voters. We hear that people are migrating from one place in the city to another place and having two voter IDs. Without cancelling the earlier one. We also have a pending case in the Supreme Court where Aadhaar linkage is not possible. So there has to be a unifying number, some identity number, which links, which ensures that people from one state do not vote in another state. People from one area don't go and register themselves in another area. How can we do this seamlessly with good technology? Yet upholding whatever constitutional boundaries that we must have. These are the points that we would really like to discuss today. And so we have at a high level somebody as erudite as Dr. Shastri, Vikram, who knows what is happening. Vikram, who knows what's happening with the Apartment Federation and what is the thinking amongst all apartments. Then we have Sudheendra and Kaveri Kedarnath from Congress and BJP respectively, who have worked at the booth level. They know what is the pulse of the people who have been campaigning and voting, and they know what is happening at the booth level. And then, of course, from BBMP, as and when Mr. Selvamani joins. So I think we will have a discussion which is a 360-degree discussion from all perspectives, and hopefully we will have some engaging conversations to understand this big mystery. And before we launch off to the panel discussion, I want to just show you 3-4 slides. It is just for the audience who may not know all the numbers, so we thought we would create some perspective. And Sharad, if you can just put on the slides, that would be great. Sharad, can you share the slides, please? Yes. So what happened on 26th April? We had 1 crore electorates. We had 8,984 polling stations. We had electoral population ratio, which was 70.28%. We had 5 parliamentary constituencies, and this consists of 27 assembly constituencies, 224 wards, but really 5 parliamentary constituencies that we are concerned about. And if you look at the total polling, you can see that the number of electors electors, we had a total number of electors was 1 crore, and you can see the number of electors, 48.48% were female and 51.5% were male. So that was the distribution, largely almost the same in all the constituencies with some minor differences. And just move on to the next slide, please. Yes. So when we look at the polling percentage, when we look at North, Central, and South, we had North, which showed a polling percentage of 54.45%. Central showed a polling of 54.06%. South was 53. And overall for these three together was 53.96%. So this was the polling percentage. And overall male percentage was 53% and female was 54.9%. So there was a 2 percentage point difference, almost a 2 percentage point difference in female turnout. That was interesting to note. That was close to 55%, where male turnout was 53%. So these were some of the key statistics. If you look at the voters, electors, we had 79 lakh 90,000 electors. We had 21 lakh. We had 43 lakh voters. So this is these were the statistics. Move to the next slide, please. If you look at this slide is an interesting slide, which shows what has happened over the years from 2014 to 2019 to 2024. What has happened in Bangalore North, what has happened in Bangalore Central, what has happened in Bangalore South. And you can see a near consistent decline, except Bangalore North has slightly gone up over the previous elections to 2014. But largely, you can see a decline. And therefore, it brings me to the larger question, why is there this decline? And if you see that, in the general elections, the data which was put out, they found 50 parliamentary constituencies had lowest voter turnout. Bangalore urban, the 3 parliamentary constituencies that we are discussing, were under the 50 with lowest voter turnout ratio. And therefore, our role is, so many civic minded organizations have been working over the last 10 years to actively get the middle class to come out and vote. Because with the rising middle class, we felt that it was very important for all of them to participate in this. And this consistently, we feel we are let down election after election when we see the poor voter turnout ratio. So let's go to the next slide and look at what are some of these numbers telling us. So between 2014 and 2019, there was a 4.47 lakh increase in electors, whereas we saw only 2 lakh increase in voting. And therefore, obviously, the EP ratio comes down. The ratio is declining. So again, between 2019 to 2024, 3.65 lakh people got added as electors, only 1.9 lakh increase in voting. Similarly, from when you look at the 10-year period, 8.13 lakh people got added as electors, only 3.92 lakh increased in voting. So overall, the polling declined, the poll percentage declined by 2% from 56.53% to 54.45%. So that's what we wanted to explain to the audience, and that is the context we wanted to set. Next one. Next slide, please. Yeah. So this is with respect to central. Similarly, 2.73 lakh increase in electors, 1.23 lakh increase in voting. And then we have all these data points. Overall, sum and substances over the 10-year period, 5 lakh increase in electors, 2.41 lakh increase in voting. Polling declined 1.58%. And that is the key takeaway. Next slide. Coming to Bangalore South, we have again overall polling declined by 2.58%. If you look at the 10-year period, increase was only 3.43 lakhs, much lower than the others. And whereas the voters, electors increased by 3.43, but voters increased only by 1.3 lakhs. Okay, next slide. Just some, again, some context, wanted to give some of these data points so that you know what is going on between 2014 to 20, the increase in voting between 14 to 19, 19 to 24, and again, 10-year period, 14 to 24. So these are all the data points that we had already shown earlier, but we thought it will be useful for you to see it on one slide. Bangalore North declined by 2%. Bangalore Central declined by 1.58%. Bangalore South declined by 2.58% over the 10-year period. Yeah. Next slide. Yeah. So what we thought we would also see is insert in between the BBMP elections and the assembly constituency, the Vidhan Sabha elections, and then see what happened, whether there is any change in pattern. And here are some of the numbers. If you look at the overall electors, we had from 63 lakhs going down to 61 lakhs in BBMP, then going down to 57 lakhs, then suddenly shooting up to 72, then suddenly shooting up to 76, then shooting up to 79. It has been consistently going up. Now, for some reason, it went down in the BBMP and the assembly constituency in the previous two, 2015 and 2018, and then suddenly it shot up significantly. We don't know all the reasons. That's why we always tend to feel that, is there a base effect problem? Is there a denominator problem? And we have esteemed panel members who can throw some light on this. And therefore, if you look at the voter turnout percentage, it is 56%. If you look at the absolute numbers in terms of number of voters, that has also been growing. So increasing the electorates from 63 lakhs to 79 lakhs in 2024, it's all been increasing, but voter turnout ratio 56 to 53% over 10 years. So this is really the concern area. Okay, next. So 16.58 lakh voters increased over this period. Voter turnout ratio continues to decline, except for Lok Sabha 2.08, Vidhan Sabha 2018. So I think let's now sort of try to decode what has happened. And I would really like to start with Dr. Sandeep Shastri, because he knows, he has been studying this for years together. He understands the trends. We're very fortunate to have him with us. He'll help us decode this mystery, and then we'll go on to other people who have been working on the ground, working very, very hard.
Thank you, Revathy ji. I think you have made a very interesting set of points in the initial comments. Let me start off by saying, if you look at what was originally Bangalore constituency and later Bangalore South constituency, if you look at elections since 1952, 18 elections till now, the voter turnout in this constituency has crossed 60% only once in the entire period from 1952 to today. Voter turnout in this parliamentary constituency in a parliamentary election has crossed 60% just on one occasion. And otherwise, on most occasions, it's been in the 50s range. It's more or less been in the same range. And in 6 elections, it's actually been less than 50%. The most recent ones being 2009, 2004, and 1991, where it dipped below 50%. The only election where it was more than 60% was that historic 1977 election, which led to the post-emergency election was the one where it went up. Now, I would see 2 types of reasons for low voter turnout. I think beyond a shadow of doubt, there is this middle class apathy that is there, this whole I love democracy, I hate politics approach. The belief that we must be a democracy, but the political system is too polluted. I remember in 2009, when we did a survey in an area, I will not mention the area, which had something like 18%, a polling booth which had 18% polling. When we went and did a survey there the next day, a common response, and that was one of the more educated segments and very well-off segments. And when we asked people, why did you not vote? They said, everybody is corrupt, therefore we don't want to vote. And then we said, yes, everybody is corrupt, but who are the candidates in your constituency? Most of the respondents said, we don't know who the candidates are, but we think everybody is corrupt. So that dimension, I think, is something which I would like to emphasize, this cynicism in the middle class and not wanting to do anything yourself. To a certain extent, also, this is a segment which has the power, authority, and resources to resolve its problem, and therefore they do not require the elected representative to be able to do it for them. I'm not trying to generalize, but in some segments, we could explain lower vote out in this context. Also, the timing of the elections often makes a difference. I remember 17th April 2014, when we voted in the Lok Sabha election, that was Thursday, followed by holidays. And on 16th April, when my students did a survey in the airport, you had families going out saying, we have 4 days off, so we want to take a break and leave the city. Now, many said the same thing happened this time around when the polling happened on a Friday. So one set of reasons is the apathy in the voter and the disinterest in the voter. Now, this time we did an additional study in 4 constituencies where in the assembly elections, we had a lower voter turnout as compared to other, and I'm talking of Bangalore South. The 4 assembly constituencies were Vijayanagar, Baswantagudi, Jayanagar, and Bommanhalli, where we did a study. And what was the study we did? We went to around 10 households in each of these 4 constituencies, a total of 40 households, and interviewed people there about not just their household, but households around them. And what did we find? In many households, more than half of those whose names are on the electoral rolls are either abroad or outside Karnataka. They are registered as voters in Bangalore South constituency in these 4 assembly areas, but they are living outside India or they are living outside Karnataka and therefore did not come and vote. We also found a significant chunk of people in these 40 household areas, people who had a vote in Ramnagaram, people who had a vote in Kolar, people who had a vote in Tumkur, telling us that we would prefer to go and vote there rather than here because our social and economic interests are more in the homes that we have in those places. So my larger point is, do we have in our electoral rolls names of people who are legitimately voters in Bangalore city, but then do not live in Bangalore city. Either live abroad for a period of time or work outside Karnataka have been working in outside Karnataka for a period of time. And therefore, when an election happens, they are not here to actually vote. And secondly, the point you did make in passing, there are a lot of people in Bangalore city who are also registered as voters in smaller townships on the outskirts of Bangalore, in maybe Mandya, Kolar, Tumkur, Ramnagara, these areas. And on voting day, they prefer to go back there and vote. So I'm saying this is emerging as an important reason. And I have today now empirical evidence to actually prove this, that in these 40 area studies that we did, we actually found a very high percentage of names in the voters list, but people who were not in the city and therefore, and not in the city, just not for that day, but having relocated temporarily or permanently to some other part of India or even abroad. But their names continue to be on the voters list. Now, I'm not too sure how this particular issue can be handled, because technically these would show up as people who did not vote and would inflate the number of non-voters in the city. I'm not just saying, therefore, that this is the only cause. I have put this as a basket of causes. Apathy is very much a cause beyond a shadow of doubt. Many people believing that when I have to prioritize my time, there are other things that are more important. That is very much there. But then I'm saying this third aspect, which I've talked about, the question of people being voters in Bangalore city, but not living here at a particular point of time, settled abroad, settled outside Karnataka, may also be an important factor to explain why the city has low voter turnout. But I'll add a final caveat, Revathy, that is, let us not use the last factor to mask the issue of apathy. Apathy is a fact, apathy is real, and just saying that, oh, a lot of voters are outside the state and outside the country should not take away attention from this point, that there are voters who are in the city who could have voted, who did not vote or prefer to go out on a family outing rather than spending that time voting. I'll stop here and come back later if there are any questions or comments.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Shastri. That was insightful, because a study like this is extremely helpful, because we are all aware of family members and people who are friends of families. We know that this is a real problem, and therefore a study like this really helps in cementing it. But the real question, as you rightly said, is what percentages can we allocate to migrant population? What percentages can be allocated to just sheer apathy? And what can we do to make people believe that they must exercise their franchise? It's a very difficultly fought right that we have received, and we are just looks like we are just throwing it away very easily. Thank you, Vikram. I'll come back to you later. Vikram, I know that over the last 10 years, ever since Bangalore Apartment Federation may not be 10 years old, but I think it started in the wake of the India Against Corruption. A lot of people felt middle class apathy is a big issue, and the Apartment Federation is really addressing that middle class voter apathy. You are right in the thick of it, and we'd really like to hear from you. What kind of changes have you seen? I have personally, over the last 10 years, seen people becoming more vociferous, people becoming more engaged in many issues, at least civic issues. I don't know about coming out to vote, but they have become more engaged in civic issues, at least if there is a apartment community, because then there is a community with which they can work. But there's also still a lot of people who are sitting in the fringes and who believe that they can anyway, they have privatized all their services and they don't need any government services. So anything can happen in our life, it doesn't change much. So we'd really like to hear from you, Vikram. And what would you have thought would have been the outcome, considering your work so closely with all of them?
Thanks, Revathy. First of all, important, good discussion. And yeah, I think Professor Shastri threw some light on very interesting sort of factual research-based inputs. I would also broadly offer two or three points, I think, from our own analysis, starting again with correlating to the study which he referred to in Bangalore South, right? So I think point number one, there is a significant, we cannot ignore that there's a significant baseline error, right, in terms of the voter list itself. And I'll just quote a couple of, we are trying to do some case study analysis in terms of voting pattern percentage within our own member apartments. For example, member apartment number 1 has, I think, about 311 registered voters. They have done an enumeration of the voter list over there. But clearly eligible people who are resident over there are about 163, right? That's almost about 47% of the entries over there who don't live there at all. Of course, not living there being attributable to various different reasons, including people who have moved abroad, who have moved from the constituency, have let out that place for tenanted properties, etc., and all that kind of stuff, right? In my own apartment, we had 105 households. 67 households have voted. We are trying to do the detailing on the rest of the 37 households as well. But I think that will largely be, again, the set of apartments who are not registered over here because their movement into this constituency is rather very recent. Because the rest of the 67%, and I'm seeing a consistent pattern as well, right? People who are voting and are there for a long time continue to vote, right? There is that participation which does happen, right? So I don't have data to substantiate that, but I feel that there is at least a 10 to 15% baseline error on the voter list itself, right? Because deletions do not happen objectively, cleanly, and transparently. In fact, in one of our previous conversations with BBMP, we had sort of discussed that with the DEO and tried to offer a solution saying that is there some kind of an annual enumeration process which can happen with the support of community where there can be a door-to-door. I know that, I think a lot of the system, BLOs, etc., are overburdened. They cannot do that easily, right? But we did offer that, but I think that suggestion was not met with great degree of enthusiasm. And there's a high degree of sensitivity in the system for deletions. I don't know why, but I don't think so. They are taking up deletions of dead entries, bad entries that much more seriously. So there is a significant, as you had mentioned, baseline error. And if the percentage indicates that we are roughly around 55% always, then there's a story out there, basically, right? Because it is being very consistent in that sense, right? That's point number one. I think a lot of people who are now getting added to the voter list, most of the times, and I think a lot of improvements have happened over there, which is your voter to electorate data that you were comparing, right? In terms of more additions which have happened, but the number of voters not keeping up with the same percentage, right? I have a feeling that a lot more additions are happening of also people who are moving from constituency to constituency because they find that addition is very simple. Today, the process has been made very simple. You can go to the VHA app. About 10 years back, I think addition itself was a big pain, right? You have to fill the form 6. You don't know the traceability of that. But today, addition has been made very simple. But it doesn't happen in a manner where it is change of address, hence addition into a certain constituency and hence deletion in the existing constituency. So my feeling is that I think we are adding a lot more voters who are sort of duplicate somewhere else as well. And hence the quality of that addition is not very high. I would also want to know from BBMP and Chief Election Officers and the Election Commission in terms of how are they also targeting quality first-time voters, etc. I did a simple sort of informal survey of about 5-6 college students who are in the first and second year of college. Looks like in many of their colleges, they don't, I mean, it's a great channel. Colleges and educational institutions can also be great channels to sort of have voter. I don't think so that has happened that actively over there, right? So I think addition being simple and deletion not happening properly and objectively is adding to that. But I'll come to that point about what Professor Shastri mentioned about the apathy, although I'll treat that in a slightly different manner. And I'll add to what you mentioned saying that, yes, I think in the last few years, there has been more engagement which has happened, right? But is that translating into the right level of political engagement, right? Where you truly feel that the politics of this place actually impacts. I need to be vested into the politics of the place for me to be able to see the change that affects me in the day-to-day life. I think translation of that will take some time. If the population of Bangalore has changed, I think it is the large amount of, today you have said that I think 1 crore people are the voters, 1.5 crores being the population. I think about 50% of that population has come into the city in the last 20 years. My belief is that the political engagement of that and transformation of that, a lot of these people who have their voting rights in different states, etc., for them to feel politically engaged in the city will take some time, and it has to happen incrementally, which is where you're seeing this whole civic engagement, etc., will matter, but that is not overnight. Like in our own case, last year, we ran a campaign where we said that, we recognize that, it is important for middle class people to know who's the candidate, who are the parties, what are the manifestos, be participative in that. We have done that this year as well, and we have seen a slow change happening in the level of participation of people. For example, today we have our own federation cluster meetings where we have come to a stage where we have elected representatives who are participating in those meetings. For us, it's a huge, big step because it gives the people an ability, right, to engage with their elected representatives. But we also need to do a lot of things in terms of building that engagement over a period of time. For example, the fact that the parties do not declare candidates in many cases almost in the end, I think does not encourage people at all to be engaged in that fashion, right? I mean, in my own constituency in Bomanalli last assembly election, I mean, a bunch of prime candidates were declared maybe, almost just at the time of election, right? Does not help in sort of knowing those candidates, their identities better. And yeah, last assembly elections, we wanted to hold an all-party town hall in multiple constituencies. In most of the cases, our permissions were denied, right? So the system is also not encouraging. While the BBMP is talking and the Asian Commission is talking about sweep and activities like that, I think those are all tactical activities. I mean, put poster here, do a competition, do a gala, mela, etc., and all that kind of stuff. I think that will only push the boundary a little. But the real deal is in terms of, what are you doing activities on an ongoing basis to help people get more politically engaged. And of course, that's not the responsibility only of the system. It is that all of us need to be able to. So I think there will be some incremental changes. I do believe will happen over a period of time. But yeah, I think we are a city in transition. So we are a city in growth. So I think that data point of 55% is indicating that, right? And we need to do a lot more work to be able to push that further, where a large degree of migrant population, floating population, if they have to be voters over here, that requires some work.
Right. So we were hoping that Mr. Selvamani would have joined. I saw him briefly, but I think he has dropped off, and we are checking when he's getting back. Let me get to Kaveri Kedarnath. Kaveri, having held the Mahila Mandal president position for BJP, the first lady Mahila Mandal president in the city. Please tell us your experiences in the Malleshwara area and what you have seen at various booths, and what is your experience any different from the kinds of issues that we have spoken about?
Yes, madam, definitely. I'm happy that I'm here to speak about my hardcore booth level experience, what I got, though I headed the Malleshwara constituency as Mandal president. I also had the opportunity to work at a booth level, hardcore. I would also like to mention booth number 187, Ward 76, Gayatri Nagar. I had to go through all the voters list in this booth. So for example, if I can tell, there are 996 voters in particular booth, just for example, I'm telling. And there are more than 40 dead in the voter list already. So why do we not target on these dead voters? That is the one thing. Attributes nearly 1 to 2% of the total voting. And in the same booth, I have where there are 996 voters, I have 232 shifted voters. And I attribute this to the post-COVID situations.
Right.
Mention 2000, this is the second election after COVID we are facing. First was the 2023 MLA election and now the Lok Sabha elections. So the voter list which has been revived has not taken into the consideration of the people who have left Bangalore during COVID times.
Right.
That we are seeing the voter list till today. And the BBM who is taking, doing this work, the revenue department, they are overworked or they are not efficient enough to handle this job. Because we have seen when they come to the BLOs come to door, they hardly work. They hardly work. They just stand in one place and see whether they are there. They just mention 2-3 doors and just they go off because they have other work to do, because they are all Anganwadi teachers or they are tailoring teachers or they are some other job they are having, and they are given this job which they are not at all efficient to handle these jobs. So what happens? The voter list will be like what I mentioned. There are so many dead and shifted voters. They don't go door to door and find out whether really there or not. And as Sir mentioned, addition is very easy than changing the address. In Bangalore, if you from one election to one election, definitely more than 30% would have shifted their house because of their economic background. Maybe they would have gone to better houses or some other houses, change in jobs in the city. So shifting inside the constituency or in Bangalore itself, we may not be able to reach them out. So when we don't reach them, they don't turn up. Sometimes that also happens. If I don't reach out to these 232 voters who are already shifted, if I can reach only 50%, less than 50%, because they don't leave their phone numbers with us. So it is how it is very difficult us to reach the shifted voters, and because we don't reach them, they don't come out to vote, because they'll think whether we don't know whether we have vote or not. Now that we have left, we don't know whether our vote is there or not. So that is the ambiguity each voter will be having. And one more thing is, in Bangalore, voter ID or in Karnataka, wherever, the voter ID is a document where only poor people need it. The document, if you ask any educated or well-to-do, it is not even necessary for them. So for a government, any government scheme, they need voter ID. But as educated, they may not have an voter ID. For them, Aadhaar or PAN card or license, this should be enough. Voter ID is not given as much as important than other document. And people come to vote, keeping their Aadhaar card in their hands. They tell, I have my Aadhaar. I am told that I can vote with my Aadhaar, and we don't have their voter ID numbers. And it is very difficult to search at that time without their voter ID numbers. It is very difficult to search their voter ID. We don't know which booth they are in. And there, I think we should stress on the efficient search engine of the voter helpline. Like, if it is very easy to search an voter when we have a voter ID, but without voter ID, if we have to search one person's voter ID, it is very difficult, because the age is dynamic. Every year the age changes. We don't know the phone number is registered or not. And even one spelling mistake of a father or the candidate itself, it will not show the result. So these are the difficulties to search the voter ID of a person who does not come with a voter ID, but he has an Aadhaar card. And if we, after a great difficulty, we'll find his voter ID. We'll find his number in the list and we'll tell you go to this booth. So that is one thing. And one more thing is, what we have observed in this previous election is, one person comes with one voter ID, but that list, it is not available in the voter list, but he has a voter ID. So when we search by his name or search by his father's name and all, we get his name in the list, but with another voter ID number. That means that person has got two voter IDs. One is new and one is old. Instead of deleting old, they have deleted new. So whatever voter ID he has got in his hand does not reflect in the voter ID list, voter list. But what is already the old one, which is already deleted, that he has got in his hand. So these type of confusions from whatever department they are working to redo the voter list is very bad. And one more thing, what I have noticed is, I get a voter list like this. I have got a voter list also here. This is voter list. And here, the voter, the door number starts from 62. For example, it starts from 62. Here, this is 62. And the second door number is 675. The voter ID first voter starts from 62. And the second voter is 675. And the third voter is door number 721. I am reading actually what I have in the hand. And the fourth voter door number is 894. And next door number is 944. Any logic in this voter list? How do I find out the door numbers of this voter list? And there is one voter ID, there is one voter whose door number is 0.
Right.
Yeah. So these type of haphazardly doing this voter list, how can anybody go and reach out to the voter? Even if you want to go and reach out to each one of the voter, it is very difficult to, people will not, sometimes people need a push to come and vote. Some people come and vote voluntarily, nation, country, okay, politics, we need this leader, that leader. But there are some people we need to push to the voting booth. And this is what happens when we don't reach out. We reach only the less than 50% of voters if the voter ID is not done properly.
Thank you, Kaveri. I think that was very, very interesting. We'll come back to everybody. We now next have Sudheendra, who is the KPCC spokesperson. Sudheendra, good to also have you here. If you can give some perspectives on what you have seen on the ground. You have also done a lot of work on the ground. It'd be great to hear from you.
Thank you, Revathy Madam, for this opportunity. All the points that were mentioned by Dr. Sandeep, Mr. Vikram Rai, and of course, Kaveri was very good. In fact, all those things matter. But then, as a block president of Mahalakshmi Layout, where I have had the opportunity to work at the, right from the entry booth level, see, everybody usually sees this low voter turnout and they put it to voters' apathy. I mean, usually they feel it's voter apathy, that there is a sense of disillusionment or disinterest among voters is what they feel. Voters' apathy is definitely one of the factors. I don't deny that. But then there are so many other things attached to it. See, it is not always about, inadequate awareness programs or, insufficient campaigns for promoting them to vote, because B.PAC in itself has been running a wonderful program all these years, asking people to vote. And there are hundreds of agencies which are doing the same in Bangalore or elsewhere. So, yes, awareness program is huge. But then, see, when I say voters' apathy, this style of voters' apathy has changed from what it was earlier. Earlier, they never used to go out and vote. In fact, they didn't feel that vote was important at all. Now, they have a sense of disinterest, because they have a disconnect with some of the political parties and their issues. Usually, the local, the new registration voters, they're totally disconnected with the kind of current political scenario or the kind of idea that promotes them to go out and vote. Then also, some voters feel that their votes won't even significantly affect the impact of the election outcome. This I got to hear from a lot of people. Maybe due to the dominance of a certain political party, dominance of a certain particular candidate in a particular region or whatever. But this feeling was there across the ground. Now vote madre yenagate sir, yenadru ade agadu ide agadu. These kind of issues were very, very, very common. Thirdly, which everybody may not like, but unfortunately it is very true. What I'm talking is very practical. See, earlier, I have seen elections since 1990. Earlier, there used to be a huge mobilization effort, voters mobilization effort from the political parties itself. Later, at some point of time, a taboo was attached to it, saying that, political parties cannot bring in voters, or, it is turning out to be some sense of an, unholy gesture was attached to that kind of a issue. But then now, if the political parties they are doing zero efforts to mobilize voters to bring in. Earlier, they themselves were having a huge mobilization effort were being done by political parties in itself. Finally, I will have to give, see, there is one ward in which comes under my this thing, my it's one of the ward in my block president, see, called Rajiv Nagar ward, where there is a booth which is a booth number 18. Okay, I can say for sure this is a very shocking kind of a revelation. There are 392 families. Why I am saying families is this time we distributed our guarantee cards to each family, one card to each family. So as per the voters list, we had 392 families, 1010 voters or something. You will, I mean, this is hard but true. We had only 92 families which were actually there, which were really existing. I mean, 393.
We seem to have lost Sudheendra.
It is more than around, for 45-50% were non-existent. Nearly half of the individuals listed in those voter booths were absent. They had outdated address, they had inclusion of deceased individuals, migration to other areas, instances of multiple entries. What I can very confidently say, if the voter list undergoes a proper refinement, I'm very confident that, there is a 20 to 25% of correction is automatically made. So what we say, this 54-53% votes, we can easily add another 10 to 12% to it in reality. Practically, we can add another 10 to 12. And see, Kaveri mentioned the Asha workers are already, engaged in a lot of other activity. The same was also echoed by Dr. Mr. Vikram Rai. But what I say, see, political parties also have a system in the form of a BLA2. Every booth appoints a BLA2, block level agent 2, from all political parties. See, these people, if engaged properly, and they can get this done. There is no need for an Asha worker to come, or to authenticate, to see. I also agree to the fact that what Kaveri told, that Asha workers are definitely overburdened currently and they cannot take this job. But then every political party has a BLA2 in each booth. So it's a level playing field. It doesn't give advantage to any political party, because even BJP will also be there, Congress guy also will be there, Janata Dal guy also, Aam Aadmi Party guy will also be there. So we can make a set of these people and then ask them to refine the list, and then it can be authenticated by the officer making a random check or something, where that will undergo a massive refinement. There is also a system in place to do it, provided they should have the will, to get help from these particular sources. We know we have an example of such a thing running in the name of ward committee. Ward committee is something very similar. Now, the same thing has to be adopted in the booth level. If done on a booth level, this major issue of voter, list refinement will be solved, and our percentage, we will get to see the correct percentages at least. I'm not saying increase or decrease, but definitely 10 to 12% will increase because of the correct numbers.
Okay, thank you very much, Sudheendra. That was an interesting insight. May I take this conversation back to Dr. Sandeep Shastri, so that you have heard various people at various levels operating at different levels. It's a pity we cannot get Mr. Selvamani. I spoke to him in the afternoon. He said he has been called for graduate constituency election discussions. But he said he'll try to be here briefly, but looks like he has been called by the Election Commission, so he's unable to make it. But Dr. Shastri, if you can comment on some of the things that you have also heard from people. Looks like the problems are well known, but I don't know how do we go ahead and fix it?
I'll just raise one point which Sudheendra ji talked about, which I also believe is important, especially when we are talking about the younger generation. I have found the younger generation is plugged into politics, but they are not plugged into electoral politics. They believe in the alternate politics, even to an extent, the protest politics, the politics which is different from what the political parties want to project as politics. So Sudheendra was very right in saying that maybe these younger voters need to be enthused. And one way of doing that is if parties were to upfront address some of the issues they feel are important for them. That I think is an important point which Sudheendra made, which I would endorse. Today, there is an increasing recourse to non-party politics, non-electoral politics. And to get this younger generation to be interested in electoral and party politics, maybe there would need to be a little more effort on the part of political parties to be able to create a right image among these younger voters about the parties. Maybe people from that segment also represented in political parties, and when they go and talk to the younger voters, it's much easier for them to relate to the younger voters. This is, I think, something that we would necessarily need to take forward. And I think the point about how we improve the quality of the voters lists and deal with the situation of names which should not be there being there, I think that process needs to be clearly strengthened. And I don't know if B.PAC can partner with the government in being able to do that or providing support to do that. That may be an interesting avenue that we can walk down and look at. I think these are the 2 points I'd like to make on this. The other, one more quick point, Revathy.
Yes.
A lot of us blame the system for things which are wrong. And yes, it may be true that there are certain things wrong with the system. But then could we also, as citizens, contribute towards working on the solution? I remember in the polling booth that I went to for voting, I went at around 8 o'clock in the morning. There was a huge line, and I was told it will take at least an hour and a half to be able to reach the front. But then there were arrangements made that if you come at X time, maybe it will be better. There would be a smaller queue for you. Of course, I was okay waiting out, but a lot of people went and then came back. So this whole debate on having there being too long a queue to vote, I think there are ways in which that can be resolved. There are timings that can be worked out. So I think while we focus on the problem, we also as citizens need to focus on what is the solution to that problem.
Yeah. I think if Tirupati can shorten the queues by allotting time slots, I think the same technology can be provided to people here to come out and vote, given different time slots, or making it very clear that this is the queue length and therefore come and some proactive information at booth level can be provided with technology. A lot of it is possible.
I think this time it happened. There were WhatsApp groups where people were told, go after some time. Now there are too many people. They're saying that after 2 hours, it will be less. And when the line shortened, again, WhatsApp messages went, there are no lines now, please go now and vote. So that effort has been seen in this particular election. Maybe it has to be made more widespread and available to larger number of people.
Right. That's an interesting. Okay, I think we are close to the end of the period, and I really do want to open this session out. Unless anybody else has a point to make, I would like to open the session out for questions. Does anybody have any other panelist have to make any points? If so, just let me know. No?
Just a quick point, Revathy. I think, I mentioned earlier about the incremental change. I mean, almost about a year and a half back before the assembly elections. I mean, I have had questions where people from our members told us, I mean, asked us saying that should we let candidates come to the apartment, right? So I'm definitely not sidestepping the issue of apathy, which is also multiform, right? It's literally lack of awareness, etc. But this time we have had at least in, I think, 15 or 20 occasions that we have known, in many, many more occasions where they have had know your candidate kind of sessions, right? So I think we are slowly moving ahead, but it is a lot of, I mean, you can speak about being educated, but we also get questions saying that should you let candidates to come and speak to our residents, right?
We have also had, B.PAC has also had the reverse situation where people from certain very senior leaders from political parties have made people wait, and we had all political party members, key political party members present on the dais so that they could have a good conversation. Each one would have the opportunity to present their vision for their constituency. And, some others have felt disrespected because some of the political party members did not come at the last moment, even though they had committed until the last moment, said we are on the way. And then suddenly, after having waited for almost 45 minutes and whole auditorium full of people eagerly waiting, I think disrespecting the electorate like this is a sad situation. So we've had that case as well. And therefore, political parties are also very cautious where they want to go. They are very cautious what they want to speak. They commit and then they don't show up because they don't want to answer difficult questions. So I think this is the evolution of our democracy, where people are willing to come and stand there and be answerable to their electorate. I think it's a journey, and they are afraid, and they have a diktat from their political bosses not to get into any difficult situation. So just don't appear. You got all the free publicity, you got everything, but you just didn't appear. And anyway, there are enough televised shows and all kinds of things going on all the time. So that's good enough. So that is how parties are also viewing some of these things. So on the one side, we are troubled by the electorate itself, which is wondering whether you should allow these political people to into the apartment complex. Will that become a political arena for some kind of undesirable activity? They are afraid. And on the other side, there is a reluctance on the part of the political party candidate itself, himself or herself, to be answerable to their electorate. So it is, we are in a very unique situation where the hapless electorate is caught in between all these complex situations. So with that, I think I will open this out and let's see. We have lots and lots of questions. So there. Slides are showing only addition of electorate. Madam Vidya Ji says only election. This is net of additions and deletions is it's the net addition. It's not only the gross addition. So that's the question. And duplication of names, we already spoke about it, because there is no common number, which is the Aadhaar is the only common number, but constitutionally, Aadhaar cannot be mandated, but it is voluntary. So we kindly request all the electors, if you don't want something to be misused, you want to make sure that you are not there in multiple areas, your name is not there, please link it to the Aadhaar so that the unwanted ones can be deleted. And please go actively and delete your duplicate identities, voter identities. There is also from Ritika Bali saying additional video messages directly from CEO Karnataka to use Form 7. Yes, that I think we should do that more actively. asking people not to go and register afresh, rather they should change their address, and educate people that they can consider, even though it is voluntary, why don't you link it to Aadhaar, so there'll be less chance of misuse, and you will contribute to better voter list. Then there is from Shweta, who says there is the queue length. We already discussed queue length, and they said many booths were overcrowded. Wait time was 2 to 3 hours. I think suggestion is, if possible, land there at 7 a.m. because it's hardly crowded. So I think, yes, I think it is important to use technology to intimate people about the queue length at different points in time. I think that could be very helpful. Migration, Vinay T says, speaks about migration. We have Ritika Bali again talking about Form 7. Jairaj Mandayan says, why doesn't State Election Commission focus on full-time employees and ongoing process for next 5 years? Will it not help the city? I think that's a larger question. I think B.PAC has also tried to work with the State Election Commission of India very significantly, trying to say that continuously work on improving the quality of the voter list. But I think somewhere that focus is not there. They don't quite encourage civil society organizations to help them. They want to do it because there is a lot of mistrust, and maybe rightfully so, because different people use this data differently. Yet we find that, there is, I can give my personal example. When I landed up at the booth at 7 a.m. in the morning, I found a cross mark against my name and my husband's name. And I was furious. I asked the lady and said, shifted. It said shifted. They're not deleted, but it said cross mark and shifted. I said, how dare you say I've shifted? My house is, I'm living in that house, and you have marked both me and my husband as shifted. And then she said, madam, we came so many times at different times of the day and nobody was in the house. But we are working people, we won't be in the house. But you can see that the house is maintained. So how can you just put a cross mark and say shifted when somebody has been living in that same house for 30 years? So I think there are some real problems, which Kaveri also had mentioned. They may be sincere, but they don't understand how people's lives are. There may be nobody in the house. So how better can you use information rather than just, I have to be grateful that she didn't delete the name. She only made a remark by the side saying shifted and put a cross against both our names. Now, I thought she may not allow us to vote. Fortunately, she did allow us to vote. There is Shivram Hariharan, who says you can take both Form 6 and Form 8. Why should it take 60 days? Unfortunately, we don't have election commission. They could not come for the panel discussion. There's a lot more discussion on Form 7. Daughter has 2 voter IDs now, despite shifting Karnataka and using Form 8. Now that is a difficult problem. Anybody from the panel? The question is from Shivram Hariharan. My daughter has 2 voter IDs. In spite of shifting from Karnataka to Delhi, using Form 8, it's still not getting deleted. The name appears both in Karnataka as well as Delhi. Is there somebody who can volunteer to answer this question?
See, actually, such cases, I mean, this is one such case, but there are too many such cases. has to be attended in the local RO office of that constituency or the ward. Once that format is given, it has to be deleted. Unfortunately, if it is not done, it is Mr. Hariharan is absolutely right. It is the problem of the concerned officer or the concerned clerk who is doing that job. So I mean, answer no, but definitely it shouldn't be there. I mean, we have many such problems across. I mean, this duplication of voters list is a huge menace, huge.
Yeah. So
And that
each
too,
format has
they
been
don't
filled.
have a mechanism. If one is shifting the name within the constituency, they don't have a proper mechanism to delete the earlier one. If you are in this case, it is from Karnataka to Delhi, it had to be deleted. But still, if they are not done, so if there is within the constituency or something, then it doesn't get deleted at all. That is why I made the point that if we refine, definitely 10 to 12% would be, I mean, we will see an increase of 10 to 12% in the percentage.
Right. So I think the answer is, Mr. Hariharan, what you will have to ensure is you, in the interest of correct voter list, as a good citizen, maybe you can help your daughter to go and actually follow up with the BBMP that the format is actually taken cognizance of and the name is deleted. It may sound simplistic, but looks like we have to follow up and get this done.
Madam, house, can I have a word?
Yes.
The house owners who rent out to these people and who go and they do not shift their voter IDs. That's what we are saying. How can we make the house owners responsible at a point to delete the shifted voters? The responsibility of the house owner, because they give the tenants who move out of the house, they don't bother sometimes. So can we suggest the whatever BBMP or election commission to make the house owner responsible for some extent, to some extent?
House owner will be difficult because they don't have any authority, because this is an individual matter, right? So that would be very difficult.
See, this can be solved in a very easy way if the deletion of voters list by the concerned individual can also be simplified, like how they have simplified adding the voter's name. If deletion is also simplified, as against some stringent measures like proper OTP or something like that, then people will start deleting themselves online. Now, since that is a very stringent process attached to it as far as deletion or transfer is concerned, all these problems are there. Secondly, instead of engaging, my personal suggestion is, instead of engaging the house owners or something, we can definitely take help of BLA2s of political parties who we have designated for this particular job only. Each booth has a BLA2 from all political parties. They will have a and they are locals. They stay in that particular booth. So they will have a complete understanding of who is moving in, moving out. At least if not 100%, up to 80-90%, they will have an idea.
Right. Praveen B asks the percentage of super senior population and senior population, did they turn up? Actually, the election commission over the last two election cycles, let me tell you from personal experience, my 90-year-old uncle and aunt voted well in advance. People came to the house, and it was so heartening to see how much trouble they took, the election commission, to ensure that these people were able to comfortably vote. And therefore, I can say that obviously a 90-year-old cannot do everything himself or herself. If they have engaged members in the family living with them, they will make sure that these facilities that have been made available, they call up and register for this. But there are several others I know who did not register their parents or their uncles or aunts or whatever. So I think larger awareness can be created, because the super senior and the senior population are keen to vote. They are people who have been actually extremely engaged in the past. So they are keen to vote. I think this is one area that can be popularized much more. The facilities that are being provided for the disabled or the differently abled, the super senior population, what all facilities have been provided for them, so that they can register well ahead of time. because some of them lost the time limit within which they had to register for these facilities. Yeah, Praveen B also, he has many points, but in the interest of time, let me say Aadhaar linking, that is voluntary as of now. We cannot make it because constitutionally it is not allowed. We are not allowed to force them. So that is one. And family members being assigned to several separate polling stations. This I can say that within my family, extended family, this is happening. One family member, all living in the same house, being put in different family members in different booths, and people running around to find their booths. But I must say today, the technology has been so good this time. The ability to find your booth, the ability to find whether your name is there, all the messages that came in once you had registered was all quite seamless. So I think a lot of technology improvement I could see this time.
Yes, why it is like that? It is very easy to find out in which booth my voting is. But why?
Yes.
Same husband is has to vote in another booth, wife has to vote in another booth.
Correct.
Why it is?
Correct.
It is
Why
not
should
about
that? Yeah,
right?
it is not about getting the data, but why should it go like that? So that's maybe it went off to a ceiling and then it went off to the next ward. We don't know.
So inside the ward also,
Yeah.
so many voters what we registered have all reflected in another voter list.
Right. So I think there is, we have lots of comments also. I think we have, yeah, Prakash DR says senior citizen SSC voting must be senior citizen, right? Voting facility not implemented properly. I would say if it is senior citizens, from personal experience, I can say that it worked extremely well. Of course, my data point is anecdotal, but these people without any connection of any kind, they just did the normal thing, went to the website, did whatever is required, and ensured that they registered and got somebody to bring all the details. These people were extremely helpful. It was very heartening to note. So I don't know where it is coming, but I don't see any other big questions. We have tried to answer all of them. I know we are 15 minutes beyond time, but I thought this would be useful. Anybody, Dr. Shastri, Vikram, anybody else, any closing comments that you would like to make?
Revathy ma'am, I'm sure some of the suggestions today, as it is being recorded, if B.PAC could make a note of that, and then we could have another strategy meeting to look at how some of those points can be specifically addressed, so that
Right.
critical inputs that we have got today can be taken into actionable points, so that some of those issues can be resolved as we move forward.
Right, right. Okay. With that, I think, Vikram, anything else? I think everybody has.
No, I think I had the same thought as Professor Shastri. I think some of the systemic issues, I think while recognizing the fact that the system is not unidimensional, right? I mean, it has so many layers to it. I think there's a collective responsibility on us to be able to take these input suggestions and sort of incrementally push for changes. There are so many things which have happened well, and there are so many changes that can happen further. At the same time, I think for groups like us to push the whole engagement, to cut the apathy down and encourage more and more participation, not just at elections, but more on an ongoing basis, so that then the election is not a milestone activity for political outcomes, right? It is more consistent. Is also, I think, a learning, which I think for us, we are at BF, we are constantly thinking about it.
Right. So with that, I would like to call this session to a close. Thank you very much. We had over 50 people participating, 51 questions, a lot of engagement. I think it was good to have this discussion. We got some very meaningful inputs and, a 360-degree view. And thank you, Sudheendra and Kaveri as well, for all your booth level expertise. Lots of relevant points, because you all are seeing a lot of things on the ground, which we may not realize fully. And the kinds of specific issues that you pointed out really shows that, there are many dimensions on which we need to work. It's unfortunate both Election Commission and BBMP did not participate today, but I hope we can have some engaged conversations with them at some other point with the points that we have gathered today and take it forward, so that we don't just wake up during election cycle and then have a discussion, but continuously engage.
Correct.
We have BBMP elections round the corner at some point, hopefully, and maybe we will have, we should work towards a better quality of voter list. With that, thank you all very much. Thank you for joining the session. We want to have more sessions like this on several issues, and we want our audience to remain engaged with us. Stay tuned for more conversations, and you will hear from us again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
One quick picture with everybody. Thank you.